Howdy! My name is Nonat, and welcome to Kraken Week, everybody! This is an unofficial community event put together by Ginny D and Pointy Hat. And I figured, why not jump into it? I love when the whole RPG community comes together for something super cool, so I thought I'd dive in. Really make a splash. Cannonball myself onto the scene. Be sure to take notes with a pencil. Dive. These puns are getting deeper. And I should probably stop before I drown. Inner tube. Because of the heat in my room, I do ask that you bear with the fan. I apologize, it's going to be very annoying, but just pretend it's the calm ocean breeze. I can almost hear the seagulls. So what is Kraken Week? Well, every single TTRPG creator taking part is making aquatic and water-themed videos to go along with the theme of the ocean. You know, the normal world has its Shark Week, but Krakens are cooler than sharks, so we're doing water stuff. And wouldn't you know, in Howl of the Wild, Paizo released an entirely aquatic ancestry, well, not entirely aquatic, the Merfolk. Merfolk are 100% playable in Pathfinder 2e, and we're going over them here today. Let's give a big Kraken Week thank you to all of the members of the Nonat One's Patreon who help support me and keep my lights on. Thank you to everybody on this list. If you'd like to join them, there is a link to the Patreon in the description. Let's talk Merfolk. In Pathfinder, Merfolk may or may not be exactly what you think they are. You've got the classic mermaid art right here at the start, though with sort of a cool shark-like body going on with it, because Paizo doesn't like to do things generically. You know they gotta ramp it up. But there's a lot of different types of Merfolk. We've got your totally classic hunky merman, and then we've got... hello. Merfolk are medium creatures with 8 base hit points, pretty standard so far, and a starting movement speed of... 5 foot movement speed on land, because no Merfolk has legs by default. They all have fish halves. So if you're going across the land, you're flip-flopping your way 5 feet at a time, baby. But they do all come with an inherent 25-foot swim speed, meaning unless the waves are insanely choppy, you're never rolling athletics to swim, which is a nice little bonus. For a big detriment. If you're using basic boosts and flaws, they get boosts to dexterity and charisma. Charisma I get, like the siren and the knight to lull the sailors in. The dexterity boost I don't totally get. What I really don't get is the constitution flaw. Maybe there's just no real flaw that would have made total sense, but I almost would have said dexterity. You know, tails are even worse than, like, feet when it comes to gripping things, so they might be a little more clumsy. But constitution? They live in the ocean. That's one of the harshest environments. That's wild that they have a flaw to constitution, but that's how it is. And remember, you can always ignore the boosts and flaws with the alternate rule in Player Core 1. All Merfolk speak Common and Thalassic, and can choose a number of extra languages equal to their intelligence modifier. Of course, Merfolk do have the humanoid trait and the Merfolk trait, but they also have the amphibious trait. This is very, very rare, but there are certain situations where things will affect mainly amphibious creatures, so that's cool to have. They've also got some really interesting ancestry features like Aquatic Grace. Whenever you roll a saving throw against any effect with the water trait, normal successes become critical successes. Now, there's not a whole lot of effects out there with the water trait, unless you're fighting an evil water kineticist, in which case you are their worst nightmare. They have low light vision, which is kind of shocking that they don't have dark vision, considering how dark the ocean truly is, especially at night, but I think it's implied that Merfolk do have their own technology and light sources. But their final ancestry feature is hydration. You can only last 24 hours without being submerged in water before you start taking penalties. After 24 hours of not being in water, you take a -1 status penalty to all fortitude saves, and after 48 hours, you just straight up start suffocating. So every 2 in-game days, you need to fully submerge and reabsorb water into your being, otherwise you will be dead by the 49th hour. Now that we've gotten all the basics out of the way, let's jump into the heritages to see just which types of Merfolk you can play as, starting with the Abyssal Merfolk. Abyssal merfolk are the classic anglerfish merfolk who are used to living in the crushing depths of the ocean, and as such, get the dark vision I was just talking about earlier, so I should have shut up and just kept reading. Believe it or not, that's all abyssal merfolk get. Granted, there's something to be said for being immune to the crushing pressure of the deep ocean, but unless you are specifically doing a deep ocean campaign, I don't see this coming up very often. So it's thematic and flavorful, just not that useful. At the end of the day, this gives you dark vision. How do you say that word? Carcharodon, which just means like jagged tooth, like a shark, or a space marine. I'll be honest, this is one of the most unique heritages I've read in a while. The Carcharodon merfolk can smell blood, like a shark. You get scent as a 30-foot imprecise sense, but you can smell blood in the air from 120 feet away, or you can smell it in the water from 500 feet away. I love the idea of a character who can literally smell blood. Very neat. Pelagic merfolk apparently relate to the ocean tuna and gain a brand new feature, Shielding Wave. Shielding Wave for one action gives you resistance to acid or fire damage until the start of your next turn, equal to half your level. And if you happen to be currently submerged in water or have just cast a spell with the water trait, or any ability with the water trait for that matter, you get your entire level in resistance to acid and fire, both. That's pretty good. A lot of heritages will just give you passive half your level bonus in resistance against a certain element, but this gives you resistance to 2 elements up to your level, but in certain conditions, and it costs an action. I think that's really cool. It's a really neat way to evolve the kind of elemental resistant heritage we've seen 100 times already, so I really approve of that. Nice job, Paizo. Reef merfolk, however, is a heritage we have seen 100 times before, but that doesn't mean it's not good. In fact, these are often, in my opinion, some of the strongest heritages. Reef merfolk are used to living around poisonous fish and poisonous coral and junk. You gain resistance to poison damage equal to half your level, and anytime you reduce a poison stage with a success, you reduce it by 2 instead. And virulent poisons can be reduced on a normal success, not just on a critical success. You're really good at getting rid of them and resisting the damage. Just fantastic upgrades. And finally, the sailfish merfolk. You get a plus 5 foot to your swim speed, giving you a 30-foot swim speed right at level 1, and whenever you high jump or long jump, you get a plus 1 to the athletics check to do so, and you can do it while swimming, not just while running. Pretty cool overall, just lets you jump out of the water super cool like a fish do. Alright, let's jump into these feats, and I'm really curious if any of these feats are going to give the merfolk feats. God, people are either going to love this video or despise it. Merfolk lore, just like with any Ancestry, has access to a totally unique lore feat that grants 3 skill proficiencies, in this case, Arcana, Society, and Merfolk lore. And that Merfolk lore skill automatically levels up with you because it comes with additional lore, meaning at levels 3, 7, and 15, Merfolk lore is going to automatically increase its skill proficiency on its own. Very nice. Merfolk weapon familiarity treats certain weapons as one class simpler. These martial weapons become simple weapons, and if they were advanced weapons, they become martial weapons. For Merfolk, those weapons include crossbows, heavy crossbows, long spears, spears, tridents, and any weapon with the Merfolk trait. On top of that, no matter what class you're playing as, when you hit level 5, you gain access to the critical specialization of those weapons. Not bad. Decent if you want to get critical specialization on something like a spellcaster, who usually doesn't get those until like level 13. Ocean's Bite, available only to Abyssal and Carcharodon merfolk, gives you a Jaws attack. Straight up, just like an anglerfish or a shark, you can bite things. It's a solid attack too. It's a 1d8 unarmed strike from an Ancestry. You can't gawk at that. That's pretty good. Sea Song. You become trained in performance and gain the Virtuistic Performer skill feat, which does this. Obviously, I know what it does, but it's on screen. I don't need to explain it. You? And on top of all of that, your voice carries perfectly whether above or below water, so you can talk and sing easily under the waves. Swimmer's Guidance is super cute because you help your party members swim. Any party member that starts their turn in the same body of water as you, within 30 feet of you, gains a 10-foot swim speed. So obviously you're not going to be able to swim your full 25, 30-foot swim speed, but you can hang back and help the whole party swim across the river because they don't need to roll athletics check because none of them are trained in athletics. So even though my master athletics kineticist wants to cross the river by swimming because it's only 60 feet wide, everyone else says, no, let's go around because it's easier. Wave Speaker. You gain the ability to speak with animals, however, only with specific oceanic life. Fish, crabs, seagulls, anything your GM deems oceanic. Level 5 feats starting with Apprentice Sea Witch, very, very cool. You get to cast Hydraulic Push or create water once per day. Now, it's cast as a first-rank spell at 5th character level, so it's not amazing, but it's still an extra spell and slot you didn't have before, and as a cool little piece of flavor, you, the Merfolk, get to choose whether it's normal water or salt water. I feel like there's going to be some really, really crazy party ideas that can use the salt water on something, like you're fighting a giant slug, so you just hydraulic push it with salt water just to see if you can get some bonus damage, and I love that. Fish-blooded. As long as you are swimming, you ignore all difficult terrain, including swimming up or down, which is usually considered difficult terrain. You just get really, really good at swimming because you're a merfolk. I thought that said healing fish for a second, and I kinda wish it did. Healing flesh. According to Galarian legends, eating the flesh of a merfolk grants longevity and health. And you are proof of that. Ew, but also awesome? When making a medicine check to treat wounds, treat disease, administer first aid, you can deal 1 damage to yourself to gain +1 to your medicine check as you feed your blood to your party member to help the medicine work. I hate this. And it goes on to say, if somebody were to eat your heart and liver, they would heal all the way back to max HP and stop aging for 8 years. I really hate how gross this is, but I also love it because the GM can literally use this as a plot point, like you're being hunted by immortal hunters who have been slaughtering and eating merfolk to live forever. How cool of a plot point is that if one of your party members is a merfolk? Rad! Steal that one, GMs. Use it. Interesting! So they did not make a feat that gives merfolk feet. However, they did get Strong Tail, which makes them even more adept at flopping on land, so you increase your movement speed to 15 feet as a level 5 Ancestry feat. But if you do take this and Fleet at 3rd level, you'll have a 20-foot movement speed. That's the same as a dwarf. Starting on 9th level feats with Ill Tide, which is such a kick them when they're down feat. I love it. As a reaction once per day, if a creature within 30 feet of you critically fails anything, you can inflict misfortune upon them. If you're unaware, misfortune in Pathfinder 2e means the next time they make an attack roll, skill roll, or saving throw roll, they roll twice and take the lower result. It's D&D disadvantage, only once something has already critically failed. You saw them fail, and you're urging them to fail again. Hilarious. And really useful if you're fighting enemies that just swing wildly. On their 3rd attack with a -10 to hit, that could be really good. I spoke too soon! Shore gift! This feat gives you feet! I really love the way they word this too. You literally take your fish half off as though it were a dress or a pair of pants, and you gain human legs with a land speed of 25 feet, but you lose your entire swim speed from your ancestry. Now, things are still a little bit fishy. When you do take your pants off, you still look mostly like a humanoid, but creatures can actively try to perceive your true form. However, no one will passively notice you are a merfolk. And while it does says you can remain in your 2-legged form indefinitely, it does not say it removes your hydration ancestry feature. So even though you have legs, you still need to take a nice bath at least once every 48 hours or die. It wouldn't be a merfolk without a Siren Song feat, which you can do for 3 actions here at level 9, and it's decent anti-spellcaster tech. For 3 actions, all creatures, not enemies, All creatures, which includes your fellow player characters, must make a will save. This save is against your performance DC, and even if they succeed, they are fascinated by you until the start of your next turn. Fascinated is one of the weakest conditions in Pathfinder 2e, but far from useless. A fascinated creature cannot concentrate, so they're already going to struggle to cast any spells unless they're directed at you. And if they fail or critically fail, they're going to be even less likely to get a spell off because they become stupefied 1 or 2 on a crit fail until the start of your next turn. This is an interesting ability, and I think the reason it's once per day is because it's useful even on a success. A massive area-wide fascination is great in combat and in roleplay. The Stupefied is a nice little bonus in case you're fighting a bunch of spellcasters and you want to make them even less likely to get things off, so while Siren Song on its own doesn't seem like it does a whole lot, against the right enemies it can really shut them down. Tears of Pearl is a totally different, really powerful control effect. For 2 actions once per day, you begin crying, and your tears turn into pearls in your hands. Every creature adjacent to you must make a will save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. And even on a success, they are slowed 1. And this doesn't even have the incapacitation trait, but it gets better. On a failure, they're slowed 1, and if they don't have a free hand, they must drop something as it spends its whole first action, which remember, it's slowed, so it only gets 2. One of those 2 actions is spent reaching for the pearls. And finally, on a crit failure, remember, no incapacitation trait. On a crit failure, they are slowed 2, meaning they only get 1 action, and that action must be spent reaching for the pearls. If the BBEG crit fails their saving throw against Tears of Pearl, they skip a turn on an Ancestry feat. This is wildly good. Love it. And at the start of your next turn, the pearls all turn to salt water, which is hilarious. So you get to just raise and entrance them with these pearls. They finally get them in their hand and then just... For a level 13 Ancestry feat for Merfolk, did you think they would get a fireball? Okay, it does bludgeoning damage, not fire, but it is a 10-foot emanation from where you're standing, and all creatures make a basic fortitude save against your class or spell DC and take 8d6 bludgeoning damage. If they fail, they're also knocked prone, and remember, double damage on a critical failure. This is spectacular, and you can use this on dry land. If you're in a body of water, it's a 15-foot emanation. That is a 30-foot area circle being battered with a whirlpool. Amazing. Also at level 17, the damage goes up to 11d6. If you can hit a lot of creatures with this, that's gross. Or you can take Sea Witch, which interestingly does not have Apprentice Sea Witch as a prerequisite. Maybe that's supposed to be there, it feels like it should, but you can cast Aqueous Orb or Control Water as a 5th rank spell once per day. Pretty decent. Nice little upgrade to the original Sea Witch feat. Boy, Merfolk get a ton of once per day abilities. Let's look at Doom of Sailors at level 17, which you can use for 2 actions once per day. You sing a song that strikes fear and mortality into the hearts of your target. They make a will save against your class or spell DC against 10d10 mental damage. Additionally, and I love this, if the target is in a body of water or on a seafaring vessel, they take a -4 circumstance penalty to the saving throw. I love that. If they succeed, they take half damage and are frightened 1. Already incredible, inflicting a -1 to everything on a successful saving throw. But on a failure, it goes insane. Full 10d10 damage, frightened 1, and misfortune on every single roll it does until the end of its next turn. Every saving throw, every skill check, all with disadvantage. Oh my god. Critical failure doubles the damage and makes them frightened too, but that's wild! You're inflicting misfortune not on 1 check, but on a full round! And it doesn't have incapacitation! The BBEG fails its saving throw against this, and the entire next round is rolling twice, taking the worst result. And if you can figure it out where you go right after the boss, then it will have disadvantage on all saving throws for your entire party to take advantage of. This feat is incredible. Okay, it doesn't apply to attack rolls. That makes this a lot more realistic, but still all skill checks and all saving throws disadvantage is incredible. And finally, you couldn't make an oceanic ancestry and a video at the beginning of Kraken Week without talking about a feat, Kraken's Call. It was meant to be. Once per day for 3 actions, you open a portal to the abyssal depths of somewhere in a 30-foot burst. A burst goes in all directions. That is 60 feet across in a circle. Every creature in the area makes a basic fortitude save against your class or spell DC against 8d6 bludgeoning damage. And for 1 action a turn, you can sustain this for up to a minute. Now, let's talk about what actually happens when they fail that saving throw. If they succeed at all, they are completely unaffected, not even half damage. They avoid it completely. But if they fail, they take the 8d6 and become grabbed. And as long as they are grabbed, they automatically take 3d6 more damage at the end of their turn every round. And if they critically fail, they take double the damage, 16d6 and 6d6 bludgeoning at the end of all their turns. And if they escape, remember, you're still sustaining this. On your turn, when you sustain the Kraken, any creature that is not currently grabbed makes the saving throw again. So if they escape the tentacle but don't get to leave the area of the tentacles, they're making the save again and getting grabbed and bludgeoned. But this is still dangerous. I want to put a lot more emphasis on that this affects creatures, not enemies. If your barbarian is in there amidst the tentacles, they are also getting slapped and grabbed, though hopefully maybe they have insane fortitude saves that you can rely on while all the little minions you're destroying with this spell just get destroyed. What cool feats. I didn't know what I was expecting for the Merfolk, and I think Paizo wanted to go a little bit haywire with it on purpose. Merfolk are going to be really hard to fit into a campaign. They only have a 5-foot land speed and need to be submerged in water every 2 days or they die. So why not give them some insanely powerful, incredible effects to offset the difficulty of use? You can use them with specific magic items such as the Supramarine Chair, which you can see there and I'll put on screen with the statistics, but I love what they did with this. There were almost no passive benefits and little upgrades for the Merfolk, especially at the higher levels. It was all once per day crazy combat scenario swinging effects, and I really appreciate that. But let me know what you thought as well. Do leave a comment on the video telling me what you think of the Merfolk. I love to hear from you guys. And thank you so much for watching the whole video. I'm really looking forward to more of Kraken Week. If you're new here from Kraken Week, hey, what's up? Glad to see you. We're doing 2 more. We're doing one on Wednesday where I'm going over my top 5 favorite aquatic water spells in Pathfinder 2e, and then a little something else on Friday. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a fantastic rest of Kraken Week. And until next time, Nonat ones.